You're about to watch Paul Rulkens deliver a keynote about high-performance leadership to an international audience of over 200 business people. Paul is a global speaker, doing over 20 keynotes per year. He has spoken in 12 countries, on 3 continents, often to global corporate audiences of 500 people or more. He is the author of 2 business books, and his popular TED Talks have already been watched by more than 2 million people.
When people, teams, and organizations, whenever they hit a wall, like this, they tend to do more of the same things or less of the same things. But it is very rare that they start to do different things instead. And the question is, of course, how is that possible? Why is that the case? And to answer that question, we need to ask ourselves another question. And the question we need to ask ourselves is, what's the purpose of thinking? So it's a question to you. What's the purpose of thinking? Why do you think? You don't think? No? Why do you think? Yeah, getting results. Yeah. What else? Why do you think? Ideas. Yeah, what else? Why do you think? To understand things, right. Now, this is interesting. If you ask that question, what's the purpose of thinking? If you ask it to a philosopher, he will have 1,000 answers. But if you ask it to a brain scientist, she will have a different answer. Because if you ask this question, what's the purpose of thinking? If you ask it to a brain scientist, she will tell you the purpose of thinking is to stop thinking. The great Austrian philosopher, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yeah. Arnold Schwarzenegger. He once said, "No one has ever built muscles by watching me working out." And that's true. That's true. What it means is that information without massive action is completely useless. So the challenge that we all have as of today, the challenge is to pick one idea and decide, make a decision, I'm going to improve. Every single day I make a small improvement every single day, small improvement, small improvement. And if you hang on to improve for a couple of weeks and you look back, whoa, the world is going to be a very different place. And the reason is, this is the magic of compound improvement. And this is also the key reason why, if we talk about high performance, you don't have to be sick in order to get better. Ladies and gentlemen, when I was a young boy, I was totally in love with playing chess. So I was a bit skinny, I was a bit pale and clumsy, so my parents got a bit worried. And so they brought me to the doctor, and the doctor looked at me and said, the boy is okay, but what he needs to have is a little bit of sunshine. So my parents, they brought me to a children's playground. And on this children's playground, you have a little tool, it's called a monkey bar, which is a horizontal set of bars, and children, they move from bar to bar. That's a monkey bar. So what happened is my father, he lifted me up, and I was hanging there. Big eyes, white knuckles, stiff as a board. And after about 30 seconds, my father decided to do something. So he said, well, Paul, you have to let go in order to reach out, right? So I was a very obedient boy at the time, so I let go. Whoa. And half an hour later, I was back at the doctor's office. And the doctor said to me, next time, you have to let go strategically. And this is what we call strategic quitting. Now, later in life, I found out that strategic quitting is an essential part if you want to become an unstoppable goal achiever. And that happens to be the subject of what I'm going to talk about today. My magnificent obsession, which is how to achieve big goals with the least amount of effort in an uncertain world. And the world is uncertain. I mean, the rate of change is accelerating every single day. I'll give you an example. Who would have thought 10 years ago, that right now the biggest taxi company in the world would be a company called Uber? And they do not own a single taxi. Who would have thought that? Another example. Who would have thought 10 years ago that one of the most popular videos on YouTube is a bizarre Korean song called Gangnam Style? Right? Have you seen it? Yeah, if you haven't, watch it. It's fascinating. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, what it tells us an interesting story. Because what it tells us is if you want to have results you've never had before, you need to start doing things you've never done before. And in my experience, that's not always easy. Because in my experience, what I see when people, teams and organizations, whenever they hit a wall, like this, they tend to do more of the same things or less of the same things. But it is very rare that they start to do different things instead. And the question is, of course, how is that possible? Why is that the case? And to answer that question, we need to ask ourselves another question. And the question we need to ask ourselves is, what's the purpose of thinking? So it's a question to you. What's the purpose of thinking? Why do you think? You don't think? No? Why do you think? Yeah, getting results. Yeah. What else? Why do you think? Ideas. Yeah, what else? Why do you think? To understand things, right. Now, this is interesting. If you ask that question, what's the purpose of thinking? If you ask it to a philosopher, he will have 1,000 answers. But if you ask it to a brain scientist, she will have a different answer. Because if you ask this question, what's the purpose of thinking? If you ask it to a brain scientist, she will tell you the purpose of thinking is to stop thinking. That's what she will tell you. The purpose of thinking is to stop thinking. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means the following. Thinking is a high-energy activity. It takes a lot of energy to think. So what happens, whenever we think, we try to think as short as possible, and then we quickly return to automatic pilot. Over 95% of our life, we simply spend on automatic pilot. That's the way it works. I give you an example. If you drive a car, when you drive home, and you arrive home, and all of a sudden, what did I do in the past 10 minutes? Ever happened to you? Yeah, that's your brain on automatic pilot. Yeah, I'll give you another example. Many of you right now are listening to me on automatic pilot. And I know who you are. Yeah. So this is what happens. If your brain is an automatic pilot, you develop tunnel vision, right? Mental myopia, thinking inside a box. So if we want to do other things, we need to change our thinking. And that is the question of today. How do we change our thinking? And to understand how we change our thinking, we need to go to a secret, the biggest secret of high performance. And this is a very strange phenomenon. It's called the razor's edge. The razor's edge. And to understand the razor's edge, we need to go to 1956. Because in 1956, there were a couple of data scientists, and they studied racehorses. And what they found was something fascinating, because what they found was that over a longer period of time, the number one racehorse earns, on average, 10 times more in prize money than number two. That's the first thing they found. But they also found something else. Because the other thing they found was that the number one racehorse was less than 3% faster than number two. Literally a nose length. And they called this strange phenomena, they called it the razor's edge. And what it actually means is small differences consistently applied will have an enormous impact on your result. That's what the razor's edge is all about. And what's interesting for us, if we talk about goal achieving, the razor's edge is not limited to racehorses. Actually, you see it everywhere. Yeah. I give you an example. Think of David Beckham. Does anyone know David Beckham? Yeah, who's David Beckham? Anyone? He's a football player. Yeah. Just testing. I was with a group last week. They said he's a spice boy. They said, yeah, it's a dated reference. It's true. Yeah, but most of us know David Beckham as a football player, soccer player, right? Now, here's the interesting thing. If you look at David Beckham earns about 100 times more than the average professional soccer player. That's his salary, about 100 times more. But here's the funny thing. David Beckham does not score 100 times more goals compared to the other soccer players. He doesn't do that. No. The world is even more disturbing. I mean, a couple of years ago, David Beckham retires. And he still earns 100 times more. That's amazing, if you think about a business model for your operation, well, maybe something there. But that's fascinating. Yeah, this is the race's edge in action. Yeah? And what it tells us, interestingly enough, what it tells us, if you want to double your results, you don't have to become twice as good. But if you want to double your results, you only need to become a little bit better at the few things that truly matter. That's the trick. And for us, the key question, if we talk about goal achieving big goals with the least amount of energy in an uncertain world, what are the things we need to focus on to become a little bit better? And today I'm going to talk about the 3 building blocks of goal achieving. One building block is what we call clarity. The second building block is focus. And the third building block is execution. Clarity, focus, and execution. That's where you need to focus on, your race is at. Now, let's focus on clarity first. Clarity is very important. And whenever I work with teams and organizations, they often suffer from the Columbus syndrome. Does anyone know the Columbus syndrome? No? Okay, another test. Does anyone know Columbus? Who's Columbus? Tell me. Sorry? A sailor. And yeah, he thought he found Asia. Yeah, that's interesting. If you look at Columbus, whenever he set sail to the Americas, he didn't know where he was going, right? And when he arrived in the Americas, he didn't know where he was. And when he returned to Spain, he didn't know where he had been. And this is what we call the Columbus syndrome. Yeah. And you see that in many organizations. They don't know where they are. They haven't got a clue where they are going. And they are completely in the dark of where they came from. Yeah. Not you, of course, others. They should. Yeah, so they suffer from the Columbus syndrome. What is missing here is clarity. So it's very important to get clarity. And it is especially important for today, if you want to achieve big goals, to get clarity with your team. So here's a question to you. Who of you is part of a team? Okay, for some of us, this is a confusing question. Let me pose the following. You are all part of a team. You're all part of a team. And the reason is actually very simple. The reason is you cannot achieve a big goal in isolation. No big goal has ever been achieved in isolation. You need other people to help you, right? Einstein, he had other people to help him. No? If you talk about Einstein had a crack team of mathematicians helping him. So no single goal has ever been achieved in isolation. Yeah. So we're all part of a team. We're all part of a team. Think about that. Yeah. And if you're part of a team, then I guess you also have team meetings. Do you have team meetings? Yeah. So if you have team meetings, you have a team meeting agenda. Yeah, which looks a bit like this. Bullet point 1, 2, 3, boring. Yeah, team meeting agenda. Okay. Yeah, okay. Now, here's a little trick to get clarity. Your next team meeting agenda, then introduce the following. Say, hey, I got bullet point number 0. Before we get started with 1, 2, 3, 0. And at bullet point number 0, what I would like you to do is take a blank sheet of paper, and on this blank sheet of paper, write down what are the 3 most important goals of this team for this year? So a little exercise. 30 seconds, write down 3 most important goals for your team for this year. So let your team write down the goals and then start to compare notes. So what did they write down? Yeah? And if you do this, something interesting happens. Because in my experience, you will get one of 2 outcomes. Outcome number 1. Every single team member writes down exactly the same goals in exactly the same order, using exactly the same language. That's it. Yeah? Yeah. If you have that, probably you have a high-performance team, right? But that's not always what I find. I sometimes find a different scenario. And whenever I work with a team, 10 team members, they do this little exercise, 3 goals each, and then I compare notes. All of a sudden, I find 30 different goals. Oops. And if that happens to you, and who knows, but if that happens to you, then you need to have the conversation. And the conversation starts with a question. And that question is, okay, dear team, what is it that we are trying to achieve here anyway? And until and unless you've answered this question, you cannot be successful as a team. You cannot be successful. And the reason is very simple. Have you ever seen a group of 4-year-old kids playing soccer? It's fascinating, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. They all run after the ball, and then they all run into each other. And when the ice cream truck arrives, they all run away. Yeah. Group of 4-year-old. Yeah. Now they are having a lot of fun, but they are somewhat confused about the goal of the little game, right? Yeah. Now, the good news is when they grow 8 years old, turns out much better. So no worries about it, will go automatically. But here's the thing, message for us. Do not run your team like a bunch of 4-year-old kids trying to play soccer. Don't go there. You need to get alignment. You need to get alignment. And with this little exercise, the 30-second exercise, this is how you get alignment. And this is how you get clarity. So that's one part, in your team, how to get clarity in your team. Here's a second part I want to share with you, how to get clarity about your personal and professional goals. And if you want to do that, here's a little exercise that you can do. And this is how it works. Every morning and every evening, take a blank sheet of paper and write down on this blank sheet of paper the 10 most important goals which you want to achieve half a year to a year from now. And write them down as if you already achieved those goals. I am, I live, I work. Just make the list. Don't look at what you wrote earlier. No, just make the list every single day, every single day. And after about 30 days, this is what's going to happen. After about 30 days, you will see that you will write down the same goals in the same order, using exactly the same language over and over again. And that's the first thing you will see. Here's the second thing you will see. The second thing you will see is all of a sudden, you start to make progress on all of your goals as if by itself. As if you are a passenger in a bullet train, whoa, speeding towards your goals. And the reason why is the following. The 10-goal exercise, writing down your goals, is the most powerful exercise which I know to put your goals in the subconscious part of your brain. The subconscious part of your brain, which is the brain, part of your brain, which works 24 hours a day, bzzz, on the background. And once it is in the subconscious part of the brain, zoop, all of a sudden it determines your focus. And what's in the subconscious will determine your focus. And once it determines your focus, zoop, you will see people, ideas, and circumstances in your environment which will help you to achieve your goals. This is how our brains work. And some of you already may know this. Who of you likes cars? Some people like cars. Okay. Who of you likes shoes? Yeah, a little bit more. Handbags? Help me out here. Okay, excellent. Yeah. Yeah, now, imagine this scenario. One day you wake up and you decide, today is going to be the day that I am going to think of a new car or a new pair of shoes or a new handbag, right? So you start to do some research, the make and the model and the color and the texture and the engine, not for the shoes, for the car. Yeah? And once you got this picture in your mind, wow, this is going to be my new car, my new pair of shoes, or my new handbag. And you got all enthusiastic, right? Whoa. Because probably you think you are the most unique individual in the world. No one has got a car or a pair of shoes or a handbag like this, right? Absolutely unique. So what happens once you've done this little mental exercise? What happens? Well, let me guess. You see this car, these shoes, this handbag everywhere. You see it everywhere. So what happens? Did they switch on all the factories in Italy? No. What happens is all of a sudden, this car, this pair of shoes, or this handbag became very relevant for your brain. It was in the subconscious. And all of a sudden, you became aware of people, ideas, and circumstances which you see in your own environment. And this is the beauty. The beauty is the subconscious part of your brain is a powerful tool to achieve your goals. And by using the 10-goal exercise, you will access the subconscious part, zoom, and it will help you to become an unstoppable goal achiever. The 10-goal exercise is an investment of about 10 minutes a day. I can guarantee you it can change your life. And so it's a very powerful tool for personal goal achieving. So what we've seen, if we talk about clarity, we've seen two things. We've seen a method to get clarity in our team, the 30 seconds exercise, and we've seen a method to get clarity about your own goals, the 10-goal exercise. This is how you get clarity. And don't fall into the trap of the Columbus syndrome, right? We don't want to do that. We are unstoppable goal achievers after all. So that's building block number 1, clarity. Now let's focus on building block number 2, which is focus. And focus is very important because there are 1 million ways to achieve your goals. But some of those are fun and entertaining and give you a lot of energy. So if we talk about focus, it's important to pick those which will help you to get there in the easiest way possible. That's what focus is all about. And that's not always easy. And the reason why it's not easy is because we need to understand the concept of the valley of death. Does anyone know the valley of death? Yeah, some of you know the valley of death. Some of you right now are already in the valley of death. I know that too. But here's the valley of death. The valley of death describes what happens with your energy and enthusiasm between setting a goal in your head and achieving that goal in the real world. Because something happens with your energy and enthusiasm. Because the first moment you set a goal, cool goal, how's your energy? High, yes, whoa, cool. And then you start to share your goal with other people. So what happens with your energy? Drops, okay. If your energy drops, you need to talk to other people, right? Yeah, find other people. No. Other people, they want you to support you, right? So your energy goes up, right? And then you start working. And you take next steps. And progress is slow. And at a certain point in time, you reach a plateau where people make fun of you, right? You continue to work. And all of a sudden, you are invited to present your little project to your boss. So, whoa, little spike. But after the presentation, boom, it goes down again, right? Work. And here's the funny thing. Only in the end, when your success becomes inevitable, what happens with your energy and enthusiasm? It will go through the roof. Whoa! Yes! And this curve, which starts here, has a plateau and ends over there through the roof. It's what we call the valley of death. The valley of death. And the reason is that millions of great ideas and initiatives have died there. That plateau. It's the graveyard of ambition. Right? Yeah. The question is, of course, how come? Yeah, how come that it is the graveyard of ambition? And the reason is it has got something to do with the behavior we call procrastination. Procrastination. Now here's a question to you. Do you know anybody who procrastinates? Yeah, it happens sometimes, right? So what's procrastination? What is it? What is procrastination? Question to you. What is procrastination? Anyone? Mañana. Yeah. Yeah, we can do it tomorrow, you know. Yeah. Here's my definition of procrastination. My definition is, you know you need to do something, you're not doing it, and you're feeling miserable about it. That's procrastination. Yeah? And of course, the key question is, where does it come from? Because we need to overcome procrastination if we want to cross the valley of death, right? So where does it come from? And to understand where it comes from, we need to take a closer look at the human brain. Human brain, complicated thing. So what brain scientists have done, they have modeled our brain. And what they did is they made a model which said, well, our brain consists of 3 different brains. One brain is called a lizard or reptilian brain. A second brain is called a mammalian brain. And a third brain is called a neocortex, also known as the thinking brain. Yeah, so lizard, mammalian, neocortex. Now, if you look at your lizard, what does it want? Sleep. Yeah, amongst other things. Yeah. Your survival. Yeah. Here's the ideal world for your lizard brain. The ideal world for your lizard brain is that yesterday looks exactly the same as today, and today looks exactly the same as tomorrow. That's the ideal world for your lizard. It hates uncertainty, it hates risk. Reptilian brain. Now, on the opposite side of your brain spectrum, you have a neocortex. And the neocortex is also compared to the crazy uncle or aunt you sometimes find at family parties. Do you have a crazy uncle or aunt at family parties? Yeah? If you don't, then probably you are. Right? Yeah. Yeah, but this is the crazy uncle or aunt. It wants to do all kind of cool stuff. This is the part of your brain which wants to do bungee jumping and skydiving and making the next Gangnam Style. Yeah, that's what it wants to do. And here's the thing. In order to do that, by definition, you have to embrace uncertainty and you have to embrace risk. And that's exactly what your reptilian brain, your lizard, doesn't want you to do. So this creates what we call tension. A tension between the 2 brains, and brain scientists call this the war in heaven, the war between your ears. And this plays out with each of us every single second of the day, the war between your ears. Now, to illustrate how this plays out, I'm going to do a little exercise with you. What I'd like you to do is to think of a song. Now, think of a song. It can be a children's song or heavy metal or opera, it's all fine. Yeah, but think of a song. Do you all have a song? Got a song, right? Yeah, okay. Now I'd like you to stand up. Please rise. Please rise, all right. There we go. All right. Now, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to count till 5. And at the count of 5, I'm going to ask one of you to come up front, this very spot, and sing your song as loudly and powerfully as possible, right? Yeah? So, I'm going to count till 5. At the count of 5, I'm going to ask one of you, come up front here, sing your song, loud and powerful, right? Okay, here we go. If you want to change your song, that is probably a good moment to do it. Yeah. But here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can all sit down now. Please sit down. It was the end of the experiment. So, how do you feel? Relieved. Ah, yeah. Let me guess what your heartbeat is doing. Yeah. And if you feel the palms of your hands, they're very sweaty. And if you look into the eyes of your neighbor, whoa, they're very big. Yeah. Now, this is what we call the flight or fight response. Flight or fight response. Your lizard brain is dumping adrenaline into your body, ready to fight or flight. And for some of us, this is literally true. Because some of us would have thought, while I was counting till 5, okay, if he asks me to come there, I'll be out of there. Yeah. Flight. Yeah. Yeah, so this is your lizard brain. It happens with your lizard brain. But there's something else going on as well. While I was counting till 5, with some of us, there was a small little voice inside our head which says something like this. Actually, I am quite a good singer, right? I've been practicing my voice under the shower for the past 10 years. And this could be an opportunity to show what a talented individual I am. The next Gangnam Style, here we come, right? Yeah. Now, this little voice is your neocortex. It whispers in your ear, whoa, here's an opportunity. And for some of us, this voice was very small, but with others, it was quite significant. Yeah? So this little exercise shows what happens between your lizard and your neocortex. Now, why is this important? We talked about goal achieving. Why is this important? Well, the reason why this is so important is it's your lizard brain which will sabotage you if you want to cross the valley of death. It's your neocortex which will help you to proceed. Yeah? And why is this important for us today? What you need to know about the lizard brain, your lizard brain is the oldest brain that you have. It was there first. And because it is the oldest brain, it has been granted veto power over your body. Yeah. If it believes you're going to do something stupid or something risky, it will literally pull the plug from out of your body, like this. Yeah? And that's a very natural phenomenon. You see that sometimes when people need to do a speech and they are very nervous because it's a difficult audience with a difficult speech, so they are in front of the audience, they hold on to the lectern, and then they open their mouth, nothing comes out. They are like a fish on land, trying to grasp air. And what happens, this is your lizard brain, looking at you. It's not going to happen, too risky, plop. Yeah. And you cannot stop this. This is an automatic reaction. That's not entirely true. If you ask that to a brain scientist, how can you stop your lizard brain from pulling the plug? The brain scientist will tell you, well, there are 2 ways of overcoming the lizard brain. One is drugs, and the second one is alcohol. Yeah. Yeah. But here's the thing. Using alcohol and drugs to achieve your goals would be wrong. Don't go there. Yeah, so we need to find something else. And here I'm going to share with you a big secret. If you talk about people who achieve big goals, they know a secret. And that's the secret of your lizard, your reptilian brain. The secret is your reptilian brain, your lizard brain, loves to quit. Its favorite activity, apart from lying in a hammock and drinking pina colada, is quitting. It loves to quit. Example, who of you makes New Year's resolutions? Yeah, some of us make who of us know people who make New Year's resolutions? You know, this year I'm going to do this, that little list. Yeah, you can admit it. I did that too. That's fine. Yeah. And on my New Year's resolution, that was usually something like, this year is going to be the year that I will be in perfect physical condition. Right? Whoa. So I wrote it down January 1, and on January 2, I bought the fitness clothes, got the iPod with the music, got my subscription to the fitness center, and there I go. 1 hour of fitness, yeah, January 2. January 3, 1 hour of fitness, yeah. January 4, it's a busy day. Half an hour, yeah. January 5, I quit. And this is your lizard brain looking at you and saying, you're not going to make it. This is too difficult. You tried it last year. And by the way, those new fitness clothes you bought, they make you look fat. Yeah, so is your lizard brain. Sabotages you all the way. So it loves to quit and it loves to sabotage. Now here's the big secret. People who want to cross the valley of death, want to achieve big strategic goals, they know this. So when they enter the valley of death, they give the lizard brain stuff to quit. They feed the crocodile to make it happy. And they give them all the stuff to quit which will not help them to achieve their big goals. And this is what we call strategic quitting. Strategic quitting. You have to let go in order to reach out. And because if you quit, you will release all time of time and money and resources that you need to cross the valley of death. That's the power of strategic quitting. Now, strategic quitting is the big secret of high-performance organizations. It's the biggest secret, strategic quitting. High-performance organizations are not into working harder because there's no end of the tunnel there. But high-performance organizations are into strategic quitting. They know that their ability to strategically quit equals their ability to massively succeed. I'll give you an example. General Electric, about 35 years ago, got a new CEO, Jack Welch. Anyone heard of Jack Welch? One of the best CEOs of the last century. And he looked at General Electric, a lot of companies, and they said, listen, if we're not one or two in whatever we do in the market, if we're not one or two, then we quit. So he sold a lot of businesses, and with the time and the money and the resources he released, he put it in the businesses which were already very successful. And this made GE, the company, growing very fast. So this is strategic quitting applied. It's a big secret of businesses. Now for us the question is, if we want to become unstoppable goal achievers, what is it that we can do to apply strategic quitting in our own life? How can we let go in order to reach out? And the reason is very simple, because the more ambitious your goals, the longer and deeper the valley of death, right? So you need all the resources you get in order to cross the valley of death. So how do you do that for yourself? And the good news is there are only 3 ways where you can apply strategic quitting in your own work. One is to delegate, the second one is to eliminate, and the third one is to outsource. Delegation, elimination, outsourcing. And today I'm going to talk about delegation with you. Delegation. So here's my question to you. What's delegation? Anyone? Let someone else do it. Yeah. That would be my definition of management. Yeah. Because I got a somewhat different definition of delegation. My definition of delegation is to give something which is work for you to someone else for whom it is play. Give something which is work for you, give it to someone else for whom it is play. That's delegation. And I'll give you an example. I used to work in an environment and there we had SAP, SAP. Is anyone familiar with SAP, SAP? Any friends of SAP in the room? Yeah. I was no big friend of SAP. Got nothing to do with the program, but everything with my own clumsiness and incompetence. Because every time I needed to do something in SAP, I had to beg for a new password at the IT department, right? So, in my team, there was someone who was totally in love with SAP. And that was magnificent, because she could do in 2 minutes what took me 2 long and dreadful hours. So delegation was done very quickly. I would give her all my SAP work, and in return, she would give to me the work to build cool Excel spreadsheets. Because that's what I love to do. Yeah, so there's delegation in action. Give something which is work for you to someone else for whom it is play. Now, for us, the key question is how can you immediately apply this in your own environment, in your own team? And for this, we're going to do another little exercise. What I'd like you to do is to find a partner. So make a couple, A and B, find a partner, especially someone you do not know. You can introduce yourself. It's a nice little network. So please rise and find a partner, especially someone you do not know. Please rise, find a partner. Partner A, B, go ahead. All right. Very well. All right. Have we all found a partner? Have you all found a partner? Any lonely people here? Any lonely people? Because 2 lonely people makes a partnership. That's great. Yeah. Yeah, we all partner? Okay, excellent. Partner A is the one with the biggest shoe size. So take a look at your shoe size. Yeah, shoe size. Okay. All right. All right. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Oh, same size. Okay. If you have the same size, then you need to make an executive decision today, right? Yeah. Okay. Partner A, what I'd like you to do is take your right hand and make a powerful fist. Don't hit the other one. It's not. Just make a fist, right? Yeah. Powerful fist. Okay. Here is the job of partner B. The job of partner B is to open the fist of partner A. But before we get started, all right, rules. There are 3 rules. 3 rules. Rule number 1, you are only allowed to use one hand, right? One hand. Rule number 2, you're not allowed to tickle. No. Ah. If I hear laughter, you lost, right? Yeah. And rule number 3, you're not allowed to use any sharp objects. Don't go there. Yeah? So these are the 3 rules. You're only allowed to use one hand. You're not allowed to tickle. No sharp objects. Yeah? The job of partner B is to open the fist of partner A. And if you have opened the fist, please put up 2 hands in the air so I can acknowledge you and see that you're done. Go ahead. All right. Right. Yeah, excellent. Very good. Yeah, okay. Excellent. Well done. Okay. Raising hands. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, very good. Excellent. Yeah, got it. All right. Before we get too enthusiastic, you may stop now. Right? Now, if you like this little exercise later on during lunch, you have plenty of time. No worries. But he was a group which was very fast. What was a group over there? What did you do?
Just politely asked.
You asked? Whoa! What a genius concept. Thank you very much. Sit down, please. You all sit down. All right. Okay. Ask. Sometimes the simplest route is the easiest route, right? Simply ask. What a genius concept. And actually, I already gave it away, remember? I said you were partners. Yeah? Part of a team. Ask. Yeah? And this is very important to understand. If you want to do delegation well, you need to ask. Ask a question. What is it that you like to do? And maybe someone would answer, well, I like to do SAP. That's amazing. Yeah, simply ask. The biggest mistake we can make if we talk about delegation is to think that the stuff that we don't like, other people don't like as well. But that's absolutely untrue. We all wire differently. And I give you a data point. Right now, in this world, there are thousands of people who have decided to become a dentist. Yeah, let that sink in for a moment. There are thousands of people in the world who say, I would like to spend the rest of my life looking down on moaning and helpless people while operating a fast-paced drill, and at the same time blood and gore splatters all around me. That's a great idea. I like that. Yeah, so we all wire differently. Yeah? So asking is a very important part. But that's only one part of the equation. Here's the other part of the equation. If you want to do delegation well, keep in mind you will have no problem to get what you want in life if you first give what they want in life. You have no problem to get what you want if you first give others what they want. Yeah? And what you need to realize is that life looks more like a Chinese takeaway than a Michelin-star restaurant. Because this is what you do. If you go to a Michelin-star restaurant, you go to the restaurant, you eat, and then you pay, right? If you go to a Chinese takeaway, you go to a restaurant, you pay, and then you eat. The steps are the same, but the sequence is a bit different. Yeah, so don't confuse the two. Don't be like the person who's standing in front of the vending machine and say, hey, give me this bag of chips, and then I'll put in a coin. Life doesn't work that way. Yeah? So that's the opposite side. The other side of delegation. The other side of delegation is to give first. And how would you apply that? Again, your team meeting. Remember your team meeting. Bullet point 0. What are we trying to achieve here? 30 seconds exercise. And then you introduce bullet point 0.5. And bullet point 0.5 starts with the question, hey, what I like to do is this type of work. Is there anyone I can help? And then people will say, whoa, yeah, you can help me, you can help me. But it doesn't feel like work, it's play anyway. And then you can ask the question, what is it that you like to do? And then you listen carefully, and then you start to organize work according to the talents of each of the people in your team. This is how you create high-performance teams. This is how you create high-performance team. In a high-performance team, every single individual is working on their strength, is expanding their strength. Yeah, because high-performance individuals know that it's much easier to build on your strength than try to compensate your weaknesses. Here's the thing. If you would spend your entire life on trying to compensate your weaknesses, you will end up with a large set of strong weaknesses. And that's not a recipe for high performance. Yep. So, high performance teams, delegation, they do it all the time. It's a powerful technique and it will help you to take the next step. Now, in conclusion, what we have seen, focus. We've talked about focus. We need to cross the valley of death. We need to let go in order to reach out. And one of the ways to do it, strategic quitting, is delegation. So let's now turn to our third building block of today, if we want to become an unstoppable goal achiever, which is execution. A couple of years ago, I decided to join the DSM Classic. Now, the DSM Classic sounds like an innocent walk in the park. But in reality, it is a brutal cycling tour, covering horrifying hills and massive mountains. So on the day of the DSM Classic, I was doing okay, until I reached the last mountain. Because I was tired and I was going so slow that I had trouble balancing my bike. And then I realized I was in deep trouble, because all of a sudden I looked up and I saw this long tunnel. And at the end of the tunnel there was this bright light. And I heard the voices of long dead family members calling me to come to the light. At that moment, to add insult to injury, I was overtaken by a man, about 75 years old, walking his dog. Now you can imagine, at that moment I was about to give up. And then all of a sudden the man looked over his shoulder and said, I can see the finish line from here. So I did one thing and one thing only. I focused on pushing the pedal one more time. Push the pedal one more time. Push the pedal. And I continued pushing the pedal one more time for about 10 minutes. And then I crossed the finish line. And when I crossed the finish line, I collapsed in the grass. I closed my eyes, and a couple of minutes later, when I opened my eyes, I saw the old man looking down on me. I felt the wet nose of his dog in my neck, and I heard the gathering crowd. He won't be pushing any pedal for a long, long time. But at that moment, I couldn't care less, because I had crossed the finish line. I had crossed the valley of death. And by simply focus on pushing the pedal one more time. And that's the essence of execution, to push the pedal one more time. Whenever you're on the valley of death, to push the pedal one more time. So how can you do that? How can you build a system which will help you to push the pedal one more time? And the most powerful system which I know is a system which is called to eat your frog. To eat your frog. Now, what is to eat your frog? Imagine, every single day you start your day with eating a living frog. Picture that. You swallow a living frog. That is probably going to be the worst thing you'll do the entire day, right? Yeah. So the rest of the day will be fun and easy. Nothing will stop you. Nothing will get you down. Now, here's the good news. To eat your frog is a metaphor. And here's the metaphor. The metaphor is to start every single day with the thing that you fear most. Start your day with the thing you fear most. That is your frog. Because if you start the day with the thing you fear most, if you eat your frog at the beginning of each day, what's going to happen is two things. First of all, the rest of the day will be fun and easy. And your productivity will, skyrocket, right? But the second thing that's even more important, it's the thing that you fear most that will help you to take the next step through the valley of death. Because that's where your lizard brain looks at you and says, you don't have to do it today. You can also do this frog tomorrow. Why don't you start with email instead? Yeah? So to eat your frog is a very powerful technique to create what we call a lean, mean execution machine. It will help you every single day to take a step. And if you continue to eat your frog for a full year, I can guarantee you, you have made massive steps towards your goals. So a very powerful, very easy tool to eat your frog. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's summarize what we have seen. We've been talking about how to become an unstoppable goal achiever, how to achieve big strategic goals with the least amount of effort in an uncertain world. And what we have said is, in order to do that, we need to change our thinking. And the way to change our thinking is to focus on the razor's edge. And the razor's edge tells us we don't have to double our results. We don't have to become twice as good if we want to double our results. But we only need to become a little bit better at the few things which truly matter. That's what we said. And then we started to talk about what are the things that we require to become a little bit better every single day. And we said one thing is clarity. And for clarity, in order to create clarity with your team, do the 30-second exercise. A very powerful exercise. It helps you alignment. And the other thing about clarity, we said the 10-goal exercise. It's a powerful tool to become an unstoppable goal achiever. So that's clarity. Then we talked about focus. And we said in focus, you have to cross the valley of death. And in order to do that, you have to let go in order to reach out. And one of the things to do that, strategic quitting, is delegation. Give something which is work for you to someone else for whom it is play. That's delegation all about. And finally, we talked about execution, how to build a lean, mean execution machine. And there we said, well, adopt the habit of eating your frog. Because this will help you to take a step every single day towards your goals. So, before I'm going to wrap up, let's open the floor. Any questions at this point? Any questions? We got this little question tool. It's a box. And they carefully instructed me to give it to Astrid, so she will throw it to you, right? So who's got a question?
Kom ze, catch it. Hello, my name is Yvonne. My question is, I work in a very small team, and if no one wants to play the thing you have to offer, what to do?
Yeah. So the question is, hey, I'm a small team. No one wants to take over work, which is work for me, and says, hey, this is play, right? That's the question. Yeah. There are three strategies you can apply here. The first strategy is that instead of delegation, you do elimination. And what elimination actually means is you get rid of it. And yeah, this sounds very simple. To get rid of it. And the reason is that the worst use of your time is not to do things inefficiently, but the worst use of your time is to do things which shouldn't be done anyway. Yeah, to become excellent at something irrelevant. Yeah? So okay, you get rid of it. And often you see, I can get rid of a lot of things. So that's one strategy. A second strategy is outsourcing. And outsourcing, you say, well, I hire someone to do this stuff. Yeah, and I do this all the time. Yeah? Outsourcing. So it frees up my energy, I can do something else. And the third thing is to simply swallow the bullet. And say, well, a lot of things I love, but a couple of things I don't like. Yeah, but as long as the things that I love are still a majority, good to go. The trick of high performance is not necessarily to be able to get rid of all the work you don't like, but constantly be busy to get rid of the things that you don't like. And that will help you. Did that answer your question? Okay, all right, thank you. Other questions? You get a cube, yeah.
Okay, thank you. How do I know when I made goals that my goals are good?
So how do you know you got good goals? Yeah, it's a very important one. I guess there are two things you can do here. The first thing is, whenever you set a goal, and you put it in your head as if you already achieved it, then do you feel it here? Do you feel it in your solar plexus? Do you get excited? And if you're getting excited, then probably it's a good goal. If there's nothing, well, probably you need to rethink your goals. So it's about the emotion. It's the emotion that drives us. So very important. Think about the goal, achieving the goal. Do you feel it here? Wow, magnificent. The second thing is the 10-goal exercise may help you here as well. Because typically what you do if you do the 10-goal exercise, sometimes you see that with the 10 goals, 7, 8 goals, whoa, amazing. But there are 2 goals and they continue to be there, no progress, etc., etc., etc. Happens. And usually when people look carefully at those 2 goals which do not move, then they find 2 things. Either the goal is too unrealistic, so the brain cannot absorb it, or it is someone else's goal. It's not your goal, it's someone else. And if it is someone else's goal, who cares? Yeah, so those are 2 techniques to see if you have the good goals. Do you feel it here? And if you start doing the 10-goal exercise, do you make progress on those goals? Did that answer your question? All right. Anyone else? Yep.
Paul, how is your approach different from looking? Well, basically, you say this approach is meant for an uncertain world. How is it different from an ideal world?
Yeah. So the question is, in an uncertain world, is there change in an ideal world? Yeah. Now, first of all, the definition is what's ideal. And I can imagine an ideal world for many people would be an ideal world which is predictable, which is no longer uncertain, which is predictable. Here's the thing, if you have a non-uncertain world, an ideal world, a predictable world, if you continue to do the same things, you'll get the same results. So my approach is specifically for an uncertain world, because reality is, if you want to have different results, you need to do different things. And I think that's the difference between an ideal world and an uncertain world. And that's why I advocate strategic quitting, because it helps you to evaluate, it helps you to step out of the hamster wheel and focus on different things. Did that answer your question? Okay, thank you.
Here.
Thank you. A practical question relating to your brains, very interesting way of thinking. Are there ways in which you can stop your brain from thinking so that you can at least, not think about all the stuff that's going on for a little while?
Yeah, other ways to stop your brain from thinking, right. Now, a couple of comments on that one. First of all, there are Zen masters in Buddhism who spend 50 years to do exactly that. Yeah, so the answer is yes, if you want to become a Zen master, then after 50 years, you got it. Now, if you want to have a shortcut, there are two tricks you can do to stop or change your way of thinking. First of all, replace thinking. Replace it. Yeah, if you have a thought, can you replace it with another thought? Yeah, and you can always choose which thought you have. So that's one thing to do. The second thing is there are techniques which will force you to remain focused on getting good ideas, on focused your brain on generating good ideas. And one powerful technique, we call it the 20 ways technique. And this is how it works. Imagine you have a problem and you take pen and paper. It always works with pen and paper. And you focus your brain on generating 20 answers to that problem. And typically what happens, 1 to 10, goes fast. Oh, I can do this, 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 this. 10 to 15, difficult. 15 to 20, most difficult thing you do the entire day, week, even month. But here's the beauty about it. It's in the last 15 or 20 ideas that are usually good ideas, creative ideas, where you think, wow. So in this way, you don't stop your brain, but you force your brain to continue thinking about the problem. So it's maybe helpful to do that as well. Did that answer your question? Right? So maybe room for one more question.
Last question. You're an unstoppable question maker.
The unstoppable questioners. Yeah.
Hi, regarding the first topic, you mentioned in the team that you go in a session and you say what's the problem you would like to solve, or let's say as a team leader, you pose this question. I've seen this kind of dynamic going differently also, saying, okay, why are you the leader and you're asking us what you want us to do pretty much? It's also the opposite kind of feeling sometimes. So I would like to understand what's your take on this kind of setting.
Yeah. Do I understand the question correctly? It has got something with, if you ask the question, team, what are we trying to achieve? That you're challenged in leadership. Is that the question? Yeah. Here's the thing. If we talk about team and if we talk about leadership, there can be a formal leader, but it can also be informal. What is important is that the team agrees on the goals. This is what we are set out to do. Yeah? So regardless of leadership, regardless whether you have a formal leader or informal leader, the minimum step for the team should be that they should agree on these are the most important goals. If that doesn't happen, for whatever reason, and there's no leader there who can make the final decision, then probably you're not working in a team. Probably you're not working in a team. And my advice would be to maybe look for different team members who like to work in a team. Yep. Did that answer your question? Okay. I'm happy to join your team next time. No problem. See how it works. Okay, excellent. Now, let's wrap up before the group picked. And the great Austrian philosopher, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yeah. Arnold Schwarzenegger. He once said, no one has ever built muscles by watching me working out. And that's true. That's true. What it means is that information without massive action is completely useless. So the challenge that we all have as of today The challenge is to pick one idea and decide, make a decision, I'm going to improve. Every single day I make a small improvement every single day, small improvement, small improvement. And if you hang on to improve for a couple of weeks and you look back, whoa, the world is going to be a very different place. And the reason is, this is the magic of compound improvement. And this is also the key reason why, if we talk about high performance, you don't have to be sick in order to get better. So that's a challenge for us. This is what we know. We know that 3% of all people in this world are able to achieve big goals. 3%. And each of you can become part of those 3% with some of the ideas that we heard today. The alternative, of course, is that you become part of the 97% who in the end works for those 3%. And as of today, that choice is completely yours. Thank you very much.
You have just watched Paul Rulkens deliver a keynote about high-performance leadership to an international audience of over 200 business people. For more information about Paul Rulkens, go to www.paulrulkens.com.